thanks TEDxBITSGoa for having me, and a real honor to speak to all of you all. So yes, in this, what I'm going to talk about is really what is a dream career for a lot of a lot of guys actually, because cars is a guy's thing. And honestly, I think it is a dream job for someone who enjoys cars. And we've been very fortunate to be at the cutting edge of it and see the Indian auto industry evolve. So, how did my journey start? Quite frankly, it was really by chance, not by design. It's not that my parents wanted me to do this. In fact, I come from a family of lawyers. My father was a renowned lawyer. He was the Attorney General of India. My sister, she's one of the has runs one of the top law firms. My one of my brothers is a doctor. So I was the youngest, and really, a lot of expectations to have a very strong academic career and also choose one of these fields. But I think being the youngest and the last, my parents weren't too strict with me, and I got away with following my passion, which was with cars. And frankly, when I was supposed to be attending college, I was working in a garage, fixing cars, modifying cars, because I used to rally at that time. I used to sneak my parents' car out for rallies without them knowing on weekends. At that time, it was the rallying was very simple. All you needed was a 3-point safety belt, and you could take your family car and go rallying. So, and also, I have to say that, academics, that was one thing which I never pursued, and not many people know that I actually dropped out of college. So I really don't have a college degree in that sense. Not to say that's something to emulate, but I think the point here really is that, if you have a passion, if you have something you really enjoy doing, you can manage to do it. So I think, my journey really started with cars professionally in 1986. Before that, I was following another passion of mine, which was photography. I was doing photography professionally. So I had these twin passions, which, I could make a living out of. But in 1986, by chance, a friend of mine was starting a car magazine. It was the Indian Auto at that time. And he said, would you like to join up? And I said, yeah, hey, let's sounds like fun. Let's do it. And that's how it all started. But, in those days, there were hardly any cars. There were just no cars at all. So it was really a struggle to do stories. In fact, it was quite strange that even the editor at that time, or everyone in the magazine, frankly, didn't know how to drive, leave alone having a license. So here you had this car magazine full of people at that time who didn't know how to drive. Fortunately for me, it was an opportunity. I was also fortunate to learn how to drive at the age of 12. It was in Mahabaleshwar. There's this polo ground, which is an open field where everyone cuts their teeth over there driving. And I used to sit on my dad's lap, steer the car. And then when I was tall enough for my feet to touch the pedals, I started driving. So I got driving at a very young age, thanks to holidays in Mahabaleshwar, where we've had a family house for generations. And that's really where I got the bug for driving. But then coming back to Indian Auto, which was the first magazine. So as I said, it was for me, it was like a dream because no one else drove. So I was driving everything, testing everything, bikes, mopeds, cars, whatever. The only thing was that there really wasn't much choice. So at that time, the Indian auto industry hadn't even opened up. So fundamentally, you just had Maruti, which was ruling the roost over there. And then you had, you had these hybrid kind of cars like 118 NEs and Contessas, and of course the Fiats and Ambassadors, which still progress. So we really struggled to find what to put in the magazine. So we do some international content, but we were literally at that point something like a rally would be a cover story. And quite interestingly, at that time, motorsport was in its heyday. That was the age of the Himalayan rally, the golden age of motorsport. Motorsport was at its prime then. And it's really interesting that even though the auto industry hadn't developed, motorsport had developed, because really what we had realized was that we had this fantastic terrain which really lent itself to rallying. And of course, circuit racing had started, and then we had our first circuit in 1990 at near Sriperumbudur. So that was a golden age of motorsport, well before the car industry picked up. So I think then from Indian Auto, that was my first magazine, and clearly, then I moved on to start Auto India again with my colleague Gautam Sen, who was with me in Indian Auto. He was the editor of Auto India, so we'd worked from one magazine to another, and I think that really was a takeoff point, because we launched the magazine in 1993. Which was the same year that there was the liberalization of the auto industry. So at that point, we saw that everyone and their uncle rushed into India to kind of tap what they saw as the last of the huge markets, because until then it was a sheltered market, a very closed market. So suddenly you had all these brands coming in. You had Ford, GM, Daewoo, even Peugeot came in. And then, of course, you had Honda. You had the Koreans coming in, Hyundai. So I think there was quite a gold rush at that time. But interesting to see that, out of all those first people who came in, not many have stayed around. A lot of them have exited because they really couldn't crack the Indian market, which I'll come to later. So I think at that time, those were real heady days. We had so much content. Every month was getting more exciting. Then I was very fortunate to go on a lot of international drives, because cars were getting launched internationally first before they came to India. So it was a chance to see the world, drive in beautiful parts of the world, and drive great cars. And really, that's I think as I'd like to say, that was really the formative age of even auto journalism in India, because we had a whole bunch of magazines which had started out. Newspapers started writing about cars, and then you even had TV shows writing on cars. So I think and cars and bikes. So I think obviously when I started out in '86, it was too early. There was really not much to write on. So I think me and another magazine, Car and Bike International, which was started by a colleague of mine, Adil Darukhanawala, those were the only two magazines around. So you can imagine today, we've lost track of how many people cover auto. It's moved on from magazines to websites, to YouTube channels, to bloggers. Everyone and their uncle is covering cars. But really I've seen that sort of transformation happen. So I think then for me, the turning point really came in 1999, when I founded Autocar in India. And really it was at the turn of the millennium. Again, a very, very exciting period. Because what we found is that we were catching up in regulations, we were catching up in technologies, and the latest cars were coming in. So I think, at this point, I'd like to reflect upon, a lot of you all might want to know, how do you become an auto journalist? And a lot of people write and say, I'm crazy about cars, I'm passionate about cars, and I want to be an auto journalist. Well, to be honest, passion is a hygiene. That is just a prerequisite. Without passion, it's a non-starter. But there's a lot more to being, writing about cars and let's say making a career out of it. And I think, what we found is that a lot of people want to just come and start driving great cars and start writing about them. But, this is a very, it's something which is very nuanced, takes a lot of experience. And anyone starting has to start as a foot soldier right at the bottom of the rung. So, I think for us, we would look at people who, number one, passion, as I said, is a prerequisite. But number one, have good writing skills, because writing skills is something which is not easy. And, to some people, it comes to very naturally. It's a God-given talent, actually. And, some of our writers we have, and even I envy them, the way they can just immediately turn out, some really perfectly, eloquently written pieces in no time at all. That's really an art, and that's really a gift. But it's not that you can't do it without working on it. So I think step number one is to really work on your language, work on writing in a very concise, in a very kind of eloquent way, because that's really what engages the reader immediately. But again, coming to auto journalism, I think again, to just answer a lot of the questions which have been out there, is you need to start with having also a deep domain knowledge of the subject, and that means reading as much as you can. So I think the best, I would say, the best advice is there's no real school, there's no real, well, everyone goes to journalism school and they learn something which is, very quite general. The normal kind of tenets or normal kind of rules of journalism are there. But I think to really understand the subject, to understand how well a technical topic can be written, is to read good quality magazines. And, I think there's no substitute for constant reading. Now it's much harder. Everyone likes to watch, browse, rather than pick up a hard copy and read. But I think clearly, reading is the best kind of teacher. Also, with that, comes what I would say one of the reasons of our success, Autocar success, is in one word: relationships. I think it's with relationships you get a lot of access to news, a lot of access to products, and I think we pride ourselves in what we say is providing first source stories. We get it from the horse's mouth. We don't need to rely on the internet for getting news and information. In fact, we kind of that's how we break the news, is by having these deep relationships. And relationships actually is something which is hugely important in whatever you do. And for us, we cultivate relationships in a company right from the peon all the way up to the managing director, because browsing the internet is one thing, but there's nothing beats getting first-hand experiences from people, from the experts in the industries. That's why whenever I'm at a launch event or a press conference, I always like to sidle up to all the engineers, the people behind the products who have made them. And that's really, for me, the biggest learning. But again, coming back to Autocar, and so 99 we started. I think in no time at all, with modesty, I can say that we emerged to be the best-selling magazine, again based on the facts that you give the reader what he wants, and you give information he can't find anywhere else, in a very engaging and entertaining way. But of course, things have changed in our field as well. Everything has gone online and digital. And again, here we are, quite proud that our digital assets are very, very strong, very well watched, whether it's YouTube, all our social media handles. Again, we've got huge engagement, huge audience. And, though the magazine is still a very, very important part, of us. We are a 360-degree media platform. But a lot of people think magazines will die eventually. I think it'll be a long time away, because a lot of people still enjoy having a hard copy in their hand as a way to have a digital detox. So, we can't underestimate that. And we've also seen in the pandemic, we did take a big hit in newsstand sales, but our subscriptions grew. And we found that, we had this nice crust of loyal subscribers who just stayed with us. And in fact, even that subscription base is slightly inching up. So yeah, it's quite encouraging in that way to know that, in terms of information, people want to consume it in lots of and multiple platforms. Well, just looking forward, how things are going. Clearly, we are at the cusp or an age of electrification. That's really the buzzword today. And, for us, it's very exciting to really be in the thick of it, in the thick of this transition, seeing how it's happening and reporting on it in real time, because it is absolutely transformational. We've never seen such disruption in the entire history of the auto industry. So that's, in over 130 years, we've never seen something like this. And clearly, it is upon us. Obviously, we look at it from the India point of view. India is a very, very unique market. And that's why, it has to be treated very differently from other markets. Manufacturers who haven't done that have failed over here. And it's really those who kind of tailor products to suit Indian customers that have survived. And that's going to be the same with electric vehicles as well. I think, in my view, electric vehicles, they're going to come faster than we think. because I think one thing that's really driving mass adoption is the price of fuel going through the roof. We are, very cost conscious as far as running cost goes, and that is really driving electrification more and more. But it's not that the normal internal combustion engine is going to go away anytime soon, and I think that is also going to grow. And by I think the estimate is by 2030 will be a 7 million car market, of which 5 million will still be internal combustions, but 2 million will be electric. So that is a big growth over there. And of course, I think, again, with the electrification, the key is going to be to make it as affordable as possible. Electric cars are still very expensive. People expected the price to come down, but raw material prices have in fact gone up. Lithium which is a very key component and element in the batteries for electric vehicles. Lithium has gone up by 3 times in the last year. Obviously, it's because we are living in a shortage economy. There's a lot of conflict. We've seen what is happening in Ukraine, and all this is leading to huge disruptions, shortages, and supply issues. But again, I think I just just want to sign off to say that what is I'm covering what is possibly the most exciting industry, and obviously to anyone who wants to join this, as I say, it is something that can really be deeply satisfying, and a dream job for someone who likes cars. You can't make too much money, that's what I'll say. Journalism doesn't pay very well. If you want that, should become an investment banker. But really, I think the satisfaction of doing something that you love cannot be let's say, replicated. And I'd like to end with an old I think it's an old Chinese saying, I'm not sure, but what it says is that find a job that you love, and you never have to work a day in your life. Yeah. So thanks very much, and pleasure talking to you all.